Welcome to Symbarum. Just as the blight mist finally dissolved during our breathless escape, an ancient cigarette appeared before us. Our hunters slowed their breakneck pace. Neither the primal blight beast nor the shattering, clawing, corruption-oozing swarmers wanted to leave the milky white depths of the fog bank. We did not stop. Sunken and overgrown, the broken pyramid ahead of us was nearly devoured by the forest. Still, a symmetrical opening seemed like a gateway to safety and rest. We forced our way through the hanging vines, lowered ourselves to the floor with ropes, and let the fear and corruption fade away. The blackened veins on Olana's colorless cheeks paled as the look of panic slowly left her eyes. Sunlight found its way through cracks up high and fell upon a mighty pillar at the center of the hall, made of naked gray stone with a surface chiseled in strange designs, hypnotic in their worn splendor. We walked about halfway towards its foot before Olana grabbed my arm, making me halt. "Like Blight's beast in mist," I whispered as they came into light, slowly surrounding us, almost human, naked, with their spider jaws twitching in hunger. As Olana pushed me towards the pillar, I knew I was going to die. Still, I climbed, the words of my father ringing in my ears. "In Davokar, only the law applies. Whatever may happen, never give up."
Hi everybody and welcome to the channel. I am Richard. That short story you just heard in the intro, that is from Symbarum, a role-playing game from the Fria Ligan publishing. This is the starter set box with everything you need to start your adventure. The Fria Ligan publishing have published a lot of well-known role-playing game titles. Tales from the Loop, for example, well, that comes from these role-playing games here. They're known for their great stories, they're known for their great art. So let's just take a look what's in this box. Here you have the box from Symbarum. Treasure hunts in Davokar. And Davokar is the dark forest where you will be journeying in this box here. In this box you will have two adventures that are ready for you to go out and explore. You will have a map of the world, you will have a map of the location, character sheets, a bunch of cool things in here. This one is for 2 to 6 players. It says 120 minutes on the box, but I guess that depends on the adventure itself. Oh, that one's gonna fall out. So the first thing we see here is just a little catalog. They have the Alien role-playing game coming out now, which is also really cool. Forbidden Lands. They have a bunch of. Here's the one I told you about before, Tales from the Loop. This is also a TV series right now on Amazon. It's so cool. They really just become so big. And of course, if you have a roleplay, you need some dices, right? So here you have 6 cool dices. That old field rolling, huh? Brilliant. And then we have the starter rules. I'm gonna do like that. So here's the book with all the rules you need to start playing Symbarum. And this is just the starter set. So there will of course be more adventures out there for you. I know they released book 2, where you also have other adventures and other stories for you to explore. I'm going to show you this one in a closer up further on. You also have character sheets. These are ready to play character sheets, so you don't have to do everything yourself. Of course you could do this yourself, but this is just to get you started. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. This is a 2 to 6 player games, remember? And you don't need to be 6 players. You could just be 5 or 4, and then you just have to draw and see which one get which character. And then that person just had to be happy with that choice, right? So here we have the map. The tower. This is the tower in the forest you just heard about. You're coming in, and then you need to make your way up. So on the back side it's just green. Pretty good looking, cool artwork on this. I really like it. Here we have the city. Big city with all of the different locations for you to visit. Here's the locations up here. The spots here. On the other side you have Davokar, the dark forest, and the land itself. Pretty. And then we have Symbarum, the setting and adventures. So this is where you actually get to go in and find out more about the actual adventure itself and how to set up and how to make it all, look at that, make it all come alive. With some cool art there as well. But let's take a closer look at this.
The Great War, the hungry hordes of the Dark Lords, a nightmare that lasted for 2 decades and which left little to hearten those who finally woke up. Instead, they had all the reason to grieve. Tens of thousands had died, the maimed and broken were beyond count. The land was ravaged by death magic. There was famine and infertility, and even though the young queen, Corinthia, had been rescued from the claws of the enemy, she had returned, a shadow of her former self, with a lifeless mask covering her once radiant sunshine smile. 21 years have passed since the Dark Lords were vanquished and the queen realized her realm was dying. She was forced to lead her people to safer grounds, that much was evident. And before long she was able to identify where to start anew, north of the mountain range called the Titan Lay, the fertile soils which, according to legends, were the ancestral home of her people. The time had come for Corinthia to claim her birthright. So this is the starter rules from Symbarum. In this book you will find everything you need to get started with the game. You will find how you make your characters, you will find out the story about the actual land itself and what have happened. You will see the different clans and what they do and what have happened to them. The story so far, the history of Symbarum so far, the short version here is that there have been some Dark Lords that have been really ransacking and destroying the country for decades, for 2 decades. But they're gone now. And there's a young queen that was rescued from the Dark Lords. And she's back now. And she wants to take back the throne. So that's pretty much the short version of it. And here you have the different wars. Now there's different fractions here. Different clans, I said, but fractions. You have the Queen of the Noble, the Barbarian clans. You also have the Church of Prius, the Orda Magica, the Iron Pact. And now we get into the player characters. So now we have the player characters. In Symbarum, the starter set here, you have 5 pre-made characters. But if you want to keep on playing Symbarum later on, in the core rules you will find everything you need to make your own characters. But for now, let's take a look at the pre-made ones. We have the warrior. They all have different occupations. They also all have different backstories. This one has occupation knight, as you can see here. Comes from the barbarian clans. They have some attributes down here. Everything is done for you here. You can just take this character and start playing. And then we have the hunter, and as well you can see here the occupation, a witch hunter. And you have the races. That's a suggested race, it said, so I'm guessing you could pick that one yourself. And the mystic. He does look mystic, doesn't he? With the mask on. He really went all in. Then we have the wizard. And the last one here is the rogue. Treasure hunter. Of course a rogue is a treasure hunter. They love them treasures. Then we have a bunch of different abilities that they can do. They can do alchemy, acrobatics, beast lore, iron fist, man at arm, bodyguards. They can have a lot of different attributes here. So this is for you to craft this, to make it a little bit more personal. Shield fighter, tactical, there's a lot of different things here. So that brings us into the races and traits.
The region Corinthia is determined to conquer. It's dominated by Davokar, a forest that in itself is as varied as a continent. Traversing the woods from Tistle Hole to its northern edge would take weeks, if not months. And on the way, one of the same time Corinthia's knights have conquered a land between the mountains in the south and the woods in the north. Now, the nobles of Ambria are starting to plan for new conquest in the north and in the west.
The pre-generated characters that we just saw belongs to 3 of the 5 races that are in this book. You also have human, Amberian, goblin and orc in this rulebook. But if you want troll, dwarf and undead, you would need to have the advanced player guide. So here you have information about the human Amberian. And then also you have the traits and their names. You have the goblin, also their traits and their names. And you have the orc itself. Look at this one, he looks mean, right? That's some beautiful art here. Like I said in the start, that's kind of what Fria Ligan is known for. It's their great stories and their great art. Look at this one. It's beautiful art, but I don't know if I would call this person beautiful. And again, the different traits here from the characters. If they're long-lived, short-lived, and what their instincts are. Then we have book number 2, Setting and Adventure. This one is mostly for the Dungeon Master. This is for you to get a bigger understanding of the places that you're going to adventure in, but also to understand how to actually set up the different adventures and the different expeditions. And this book is great if you have never been a Dungeon Master before. There's really all the information you need to create your first adventure. You have the introduction about what the role-playing master actually does. What is your role? What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to say? What are you not supposed to say? And then we have the adventures. Tistle Hold. You get the background story, everything that have happened up until now, and of course, you will get the feeling for where you are, which kind of environments you are in, and what is going to happen during your adventure. And then we have the next adventure, the Ringering Lady Inn. And we have all the locations in this town. There's a lot of different locations, so there's a lot of different places and areas for you to visit and for you to enter and explore to keep your story evolving and moving forward. And then we have the expedition in Davokar, the giant enormous forest that no one really ever have fully explored. This one could be quite dark. Now there's dark places in Davokar and there's light places in Davokar. Question is what light really means in a black, dark, thick forest. And then we have the monsters' adversaries.
So, like I said, pre-done stories for you, pre-done characters, the role of the role player, a vast and huge world for you to explore. Here's some parts of the woods. Really everything you need to take a dive into Symbarum and get started. And then of course there are more stories to come. There's advanced rulebooks, there's the deep rulebook where you get more races and more information. And also how to create your own character later on. So this is really everything a new role player would need to get started with their role playing. So if you ever thought about getting into this but you never really knew where to start, this would be the place to start. You get the full story of the Symbarum world, but you also get how to be a dungeon master.
Davokar. For several centuries, the barbarian clans have kept to the outer areas of the forest, from the edge to about 4-day march inwards. The reason for this is said to be twofold. On one hand, the outer skirts contain all the need in terms of prey and useful plants. On the other hand, they abide by a long list of strict taboos that ban them from entering the deep. The witches claim that Davokar is sleeping, but the forest must not be disturbed, that death and destruction will follow if the edicts are violated.
Here you have everything that is in the starter box. The 2 books, the maps, beautiful little dices, the character sheets, and then the map of Davokar Forest as well. And these are double-sided with the town on the other back. And on this one we have a closer look of the map where you are going to explore in Davokar Forest. So there you have it, people. That was Symbarum for you, a role-playing game from the Fria Ligan publishing. If you like role-playing game, you should check them out. There will be a link in the description. They make awesome role-play games. They make beautiful art, cool stories, and the Symbarum is just one of them. This one is a dark role-playing game, fantasy theme, with a vast story, a lot of different characters. I mean, you could play this for years and years probably and make up stories yourself, use the ones that I just showed you here. And I think that if you like role-play games, you're going to love this, because this is just pure magic. The art, the characters, the whole world itself is just so beautiful. I'm going to do a video on another one of the role-playing games, which is Tales from the Loop. This video will be out in a few weeks because it takes some time to get through it all, but this one is the one that became a TV series on Amazon. So if you want to see that video, be sure to press the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and maybe throw in a comment there about what you thought about all of this. See you next week!